Hello and welcome to the Gallant Few Rangers podcast. My name's Colin and I'll be your host as always. Delighted to be joined tonight by Graeme Curry. Graeme, how are you?
Hi Colin, very well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So Graeme, before we get into the current Rangers affairs on the park, this is the first podcast we've done in a couple of weeks. We had a bit of an impromptu gap last week, and we've been recording since the news that former Rangers manager Walter Smith. It's at the time of recording, it's Tuesday the 2nd of November. His funeral is due to take place on the Wednesday the 3rd, so tomorrow morning. I don't know about yourself, Graeme. I listen to a lot of Rangers podcasts. I read a lot of blogs, and I can only really echo some of the heartfelt tributes that have went out. There's been a lot of great coverage just about how much Walter Smith meant to Rangers Football Club, the players, the staff, and the fans. You're also a wee bit older than me. You would have remembered him in the first turnaround. So I can only imagine you must see him as the Rangers gaffer as well.
You're absolutely right. He is my Rangers manager. I seen a couple of games at Ibrox when Souness was the manager. Vague memories of it, but for me, the Rangers manager is and always will be Walter Smith. He was the one that led us through such a golden period in our history. Showed us great football, absolutely fabulous style of football that he showed us. Took us on some amazing journeys. 9 in a row, 92-93 season was, a highlight for me at that age was just to see my team almost conquer Europe. He took us so far in Europe and done great things. So it was a sad loss last week, sad news to receive. I think he's been dignified in his sickness. I don't think there's been any fuss about it. It's not been widely publicised at all that he had been ill. He had been, and that's what I mean. It's in line with his character. That's kind of the way he was. To me, that's the way a Rangers employee, well, a Rangers manager, but any Rangers employee should carry themselves out like that. And he epitomised that. He always held himself up to the highest standards, held his players up to the highest standards. But it'll be a big loss because he's been about the club recently. He's been doing the Rangers TV and things, so it's not as if he's a manager that's faded away into the distance. He's been part of the club. It was his club. It has been his club for years, and he lived the dream, being able to manage the club. And a real sad piece of news that we got last week.
It is, and I think there was a tweet a few months ago during the pandemic when Graeme Souness and Walter Smith were on Rangers TV, and afterwards there's a picture of Steven Gerrard shaking both their hands, and somebody put out there's Steven Gerrard and Graeme Souness with the Rangers manager, and just really sums up what you said about. I think we all, in our hearts of hearts, see him as the epitome of a Rangers manager and the class and dignity and stature that comes with that. I've always said it's my big regret not being old enough to remember any of the nine in a row. Or Walter Smith's first tenure in general. Dick Advocaat was the first Rangers manager that I remember. But when I try to describe this to younger people like that, what we all sit next to Ibrox. When I was younger, and Advocat was the Rangers manager. Then that was McLeish. I always knew about Walter Smith being a Rangers legend. Probably the closest thing I could probably sum it up to right now is John Craig, or the closest person I should say. I've only been told, and I've only heard and tried to understand how much an impact John Craig had all those years ago. That's probably really similar to me growing up and just knowing that this guy who went on to be the Everton manager, I remember that, and he was Alex Ferguson's number 2 in the Scotland manager. I just always knew that, wow, he's a legend to my club, and there was always that mystery about, I wonder what would have been like to in supporting Rangers and actively following the team when he was there. And by God, it was, you don't get too many second chances in life, and I got it. I got to see Walter Smith's Rangers side, and at a time when the club desperately needed direction and a father figure, and like hope. He got us to Manchester. He got 3 in a row. And I'm forever grateful that I got to see a glimpse of what my dad had seen and what people who brought me up following Rangers, what they spoke about. I finally managed to understand, wow, this is what they meant.
Yeah, it's such a great football brain as well. He came through at Dundee United as a player and took his coaching badges early, and I learnt a lot through Jim McLean. Dundee United had a really good side in the 80s as well. Not that I've seen them or anything, but I was aware. Also, I like my football history and stuff like that, so I was aware of how good Dundee United were and how that was down to McLean and Smith. They coached so very well. Again, got Dundee United very close to a European Cup final at the time as well. I think they were actually cheated at their place by a dodgy ref, but he had a great football brain. He was also well respected because even at that young age, he's assistant manager at a very young age. He's getting brought into Scotland squads at a young age. He's Alex Ferguson brings him in to be his assistant in 1986 World Cup. That's where he sort of got to know Souness a wee bit better, and they struck it off, but well respected within the game. He knew so much about the game. He knew so much about football, how to set teams up, how to coach, how to get the best out of players. I see him as quite, and this is just my impression of him, is he seemed very serious. He seemed like a very serious man, and that's because I really only tend to think about the football. I'll look at the football and that's it. So that's my only real impression I get of him. But listening to all the tributes that have come out in the last week, it's such a great sense of humour. He was a great laugh, and he was a great person to be around as well. So not that I doubted it, but my impression of him was just a steadfast, staunch, all about the football type guy. But the tributes coming out this week have been fantastic. They've come far and wide as well. It's not just within the Scottish game that he was respected. He's respected all over Europe and all over the world, where people recognise what he's done. And yeah, I mean, one of the ones I'm sure you're aware of is Pep Guardiola had come out and he was praising him, and you don't realise that he's actually been advising. He's a technical advisor for other managers, and I didn't know that about him. I didn't know he had these other roles. So he's and that's where that respect throughout the game comes from, because he's generous with his time. But a fantastic manager. He's my Rangers manager and always will be.
And the whole Rangers family absolutely lost a legend in the club. The greatest manager in the modern era, and a proper Rangers are great. And for everyone at the Gallant Few, we can only really pass on our best wishes and our thoughts with his family and his model. It's very, very difficult to try and move on to anything else when something like that puts life into perspective. But we'll move swiftly on to the Rangers team. So we had we had a very, very well deserved minute silence for Walter Smith against Aberdeen on last Wednesday night. For both sets of fans, I think it's fairly safe in what I heard in the Copeland rear. And then the game itself was, I don't know, I know you were coming back for your travels, Graeme, but it was a bit of a mixed, an emotional night, and a bit of a roller coaster from start to finish. Let's start right at the very start. Then Rangers got off to the worst possible of the game. I think it was in 10-15 minutes we were 2-0 down. And we're probably going to talk about this in the Motherwell game as well, but this has been quite consistent in an inconsistent Rangers side this season, where we just take 20-30 minutes to get going.
It's a very strange thing that's happening. We're no coming out of the traps. I think back to the Malmo game as well, when the second half, first 5 minutes of the second half, and it's just like a slow start. It's like, why he's not going for it right from the off? And that was, you're right, I didn't see the game live on Wednesday night, but I watched the game. I watched the full game, but just very slow. There was no impetus. There was no sort of no speed about it. And I don't think you can put that down to the atmosphere and the crowd or anything like that. That because it's been like that a few games this season. So it's not as if we can put it down to, we were emotional or there was a environment within the stadium. It can't be put down to that. There's been a few games this season where we've just no started. We've just no been on it. And I think maybe people know that. I think teams must know that and say, get in about them the first 10 minutes and you're in with a shout.
So what would you put it down to? Is it complacency, or is it, I don't know, is it just, I don't want to say one of these things. So I think the complacency argument, it's maybe no quite what I'm seeing. I don't know if I'm just maybe looking through with blue tinted specs, but I can understand why people are suggesting it's complacency. We've off the back of a unprecedented season, an absolute phenomenal run of form. We're the champions. As a certain players who choose that found a level and they don't really need to try and increase in that. Is that unfair?
I'm not sure I don't think it's unfair. I think there's players there that aren't starting. Well, you can't say it's. They come on to a game. That's the thing. They actually come on to a game and they start playing well once we go 1-0 down. But it's like, what? It's so odd that it takes that to get us going. We should be like that right from the start. So I don't know if they're just going out with the tactics in their mind. Maybe they're just so focused on, right, we'll just do what we need to do. Maybe that's been getting drilled into them. We just need to focus on our game. We just need to focus on our game. And actually, no, you don't. You need to think about. You need to win the first 10 minutes. You need to win the midfield battle, and you need to earn the right to be the dominant team for the game. So maybe it's that. Maybe they're just so focused on, right, we know what we're going to do. We know how we're going to get by this team. Let's go and do it. And they forget about actually. You need to make sure you're shut up at the back first of all. It's certainly not. Like, I don't know if you're saying by complacency, attitude. I would never put it. I don't think it's down to attitude. I know there's a few people saying Goldson's last year his contract and he's, hung the boots up sort of thing. But I definitely don't think it's that. There's nobody that's no trying. That there's the attitude's spot on for me. It really just must be a mental thing of shutting off. But then we go and address it. When we go behind, we then go and address it, and we're no slow and throwing balls into the box and trying to get it back in the game. So it's certainly no they've no gave up. You know, they're no resting on their laurels going, last season was what pinnacle and we just need to turn up and do that again. I don't think it is like that at all. I think I think they are still trying their best.
I do agree with you. As I've said before, that I'm really in the argument that I'm here for other people just to try and, you know, have a look at every point of view. I don't see complacency because I just don't think Gerrard would allow it. I really don't think he would. I don't really know how to describe this. It's almost like game management or like a leader stepping up. I think we have seen when we need to step up, when we go a goal behind or 2 goals behind, you are like Tavernier the last 2 games, for example, stepping up and right, we need to address this. In some way, what you're saying, maybe we just need somebody who has to rally around everybody for the first minute. You know, that old football cliche, win the first battle for the first 50 minutes and play our own game. It may be something like that, right? Let's stamp our authority on it. Let's make sure we win the fight and play the football. It might be a case that instead of waiting for waiting for the team really needs a leader, a leader just should present himself the first minute onwards. And I think they had that last season. I think that's a big difference where there was that I'm not saying the hunger's not there anymore, it's not what I'm saying, but there's this desperate hunger last year where the only thing you could think about was getting over the line with 55. It's a different kind of challenge to go and win back the title than it is to defend it. So I don't know if it's just maybe a wee bit of a mindset shift is needed.
I think it is. I think it is just mindset. And hopefully, you know, what we've seen in the last couple of games is that we're capable of scoring. So it's just being able to shut it out now. Let's just get this defence sorted because there's just too many silly wee errors that are gifting people into the game. And once people get in, you know, once teams get into the game against us, and if they did score like they have done, all they do is defend. You know, that's it. They've just got something to cling to, and they'll, you know, it suits them because they'll just put 11 men behind the ball, and then it makes it really difficult. Luckily, we are finding the ways through that, but you're probably right. Just a wee bit of a mentality shift, and maybe they just need a kick up the arse before they go out in the first 5-10 minutes.
Having said all that, try to look into the deeper psychology of an elite athlete. At the same time, I'm looking at the first goal against Aberdeen and thinking, what the fuck possesses you to do that? A lot of people around me were blaming Lundstrom mainly for that, but I think that the blame has to go to mainly Goldson and McLaughlin for giving him the ball in the first place. You should see that Aberdeen have obviously seen how often we like to play this stupid routine and just rest high. McLaughlin and Goldson should be seeing that and launching it right up the park.
Aye, definitely. And it's just launch it. It's their job sometimes. It's just to, I know they're probably getting coached to play it out for the back, but knowing the first 10 minutes, just let's get our foot in the ball and let's do the right things first. Put them under pressure so that they're scared to come and press us. That's what we should be doing. They shouldn't have the confidence to come and press us. They should be so camped in their own 18-yard box that they're too scared to come out. But I think you're right. I think the blame goes to Goldson for that one.
And then again, I think it was Balogun who loses Scotland of all people for a free header. And just switching off at the wrong moments at the start of the game. We'll no dwell on it too much because I'm actually feeling very positive after Sunday's result. And probably jump back to the Aberdeen game as well because I think we need to take the positives. We did we did pull it back. I mean, in maybe 5-6 months' time, we could be looking back to that point in Aberdeen and thinking, no, what we clawed back at that point when we needed it. But for the Motherwell goal, I'll no dwell on the Tavernier bandwagon that everybody jumps on. One thing I want to ask you about is what I heard in the pub next to pod favourite Craig McAdam when Motherwell scored. Alan McGregor, there's a few murmurs that this is the beginning or the end of Alan McGregor. So I don't think that's quite fair. I think he's made a couple of mistakes. I think he could have done better for the Motherwell goal. But at the same time, I think it might be something to do with how often we're swapping and changing the goalkeepers. Where are you sitting in this?
It was an early kick-off, wasn't it?
Think it was it the night before? Was that what it is?
No, I don't know why he ended in the pubs criticising McGregor. He must have been pissed very early doors.
We had calls from back. We had an early bell.
No, I don't think you can blame McGregor for that goal at all. I think it was a great save. Well, I don't know what you're expecting him to do. He's saved it. He's pushed it to the side, and he's got up and tried to block it. I mean, how do you? I know you say you never get beat at your near post, but God, so you can't expect him to save that. He's boys rifled it in for 3 yards out.
I think he has to.
You need to start. Yeah.
I think he has to position his body a bit better in near post, turning away from it. In
the space of half a second, he saved it and had to jump up because there's no other defenders there to clear it. So should be somebody else there to clear that second ball. The defending for that corner was ridiculous. There was 5 guys in the box. Goldson's away at the back post. I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't marking his man. He wasn't marking the big boy that scored. He was in the wrong side of him. We've got 2 guys man marking the two guys that are going to attack it. They're man marking them and standing on the 18-yard line. Balogun's ran alongside the boy and then just lost his man completely. So, I'm not blaming McGregor at all for that. The defence was shocking. It was really, really bad. Goldson, one of our best headers of the ball, should be in between the posts at least to go and attack a header. I've no idea why we defended like that. It was a very weird setup the way we done that. I've not seen us do it before either. So, it was a very odd one. But Goldson should be there to clear that. So when McGregor saves that, Goldson should be there to clear that, and he's ball watching. So, no, all the blame to 2 centre halves for me. Goldson and Balogun need to take the blame, and there's no fault to be placed in McGregor's door.
We'll compromise and say 3% McGregor. Fault the rest of centre halves. But I do agree with you.
It was a great save. It was a powerful header. He had to get down low to save it, and he's pushed it to the side. He's done his job, and he's up ready to try and block it. So
it's the initial save. I totally agree with you. I just feel he could have positioned a wee bit better for the rebound shot. And again, I need to be transparent here. I was just raising this as a point that I heard at the pub, but I don't think McGregor's finished. I do think he could have done better for that shot, but the vast majority of the blame goes to the defence for how he conceded that. Never conceded it. And I actually think I thought Balogun just looked lost at the corner. He didn't know where he should have been, never mind what man he was losing.
I'll criticise McGregor. I've no qualms. I've criticised him before about his kicking. I think his distribution's a bit poor when he's trying to do, pinging it out to the wide areas and things like that. So I've got no qualms about criticising McGregor, but certainly not the weekend. I thought he had a good game.
Yeah. So I think we've done enough to end and bashing now. Let's look a wee bit further forward, because I do think it's maybe went under the radar. We did do all right, as I was saying. We did do all right against Aberdeen after we went 2-0 down. And I think there's probably it's probably fair if you're a midfielder or an attacker at Rangers right now to be thinking, we are doing our job over the last few games. We're getting goals. Sometimes we just need a wee bit of help at the back. I thought we were. It actually took me. I had to get talked into realising how well we were playing at Motherwell on Sunday, because I was just looking at the scoreline in my mood and a bit of hangover as well. I must say, I was at a wedding the night before, but somebody actually pointed out to me, no, let's actually watch the football. It's played really well throughout, and I don't find that scoreline factors at all on Sunday.
I mean, you can't say it took us 30 minutes to get going, because we were all over them from the very start. We were pressing them, we were doing the right things. O'Donnell gets a yellow card early doors for Sakala. Sakala stole it off him, showed good acceleration and pace, but also a bit of strength. O'Donnell's a big boy, so to be able to shove him off the ball, rob him of it, and then he was off his mark. He wasn't catching him, so he had to pull him back. But that was indicative. We were putting crosses into the box so many times. We were getting down the flanks. Bassey was getting forward, Tav was getting forward. You had Morelos was driving at people, which was good to see. He was actually getting the ball down, looking around, spreading passes really well. I thought his link-up was good. I know he didn't score, which in a six-goal game and your centre-forward doesn't score, you're maybe a bit concerned, but he played well as well. He was linking the play up, and I thought he played really well. So with a great 30 minutes with nothing to show for it, but the signs were there that the goal's coming.
I think just what you were saying there about Morelos, the link-up play and running at O'Donnell, that's what we've missed. I think it was almost a throwback to last season, where we didn't need Morelos to step up with the goals, but at the same time we didn't have to criticise him for it, because it was so important to how the midfield and the attack linked up and how he played others into the game. And I think the biggest difference between Sunday and Aberdeen at home was the pace and just the willingness to run forward for Sakala and Arfield, but having the vision to time your run at the right times into the right areas. It's something we've not really had much this season. Ryan Ken and Shaw Wright have shown in glimpses. Ken was obviously well off of form and partly injured. All right, he's still very raw, but I think that's definitely been the best unit we've had out of the three so far this season.
Because Aberdeen didn't know where to defend, where we were. Motherwell didn't know where our attack was coming from, because it was coming from Aribo, Tav, Bassey, Sakala was running at them as well. So I was all over attack. It was all over attack. So, and that's what we need. That's what we've been crying out for. Instead of this tippy tappy nonsense, kind of like getting it to the byline and then bringing it back again, and nothing that loads of possession but no actual attacks. We've been crying out for it for weeks, and I think we've been saying that it's going to click. It's going to click at one point, but you have to make it happen. You don't just expect it to happen. If you have all the ball, you need to actually commit defenders, which I thought Aribo was very good at. He was, turning that boy inside out a few times and getting to the byline, and because Aribo's been good, I would say. To be fair, I think Aribo's been good the last couple of months. He's one of the ones that gets pass marks every game for me. Actually, he's been consistently effective. So I thought we'd done very well in the first half as well, and it was just a matter of time before the goals were coming.
The most pleasing thing with me was the manner, the goals. Completely different goals all the way through, and I think that summed up how Rangers played. And I know it's a very lazy comparison, constantly going back to last year when we were at our best, but that's why Rangers were so dominant last year, because we were trying different methods of attack. We could cross the ball back, cross the front post from either side. They want to us through the middle. We had runners on deep. We had good dribblers, and the reason we were so dominant is defences didn't know how to set up, whether it was a low block, if somebody had to press or somebody had to sit down, sit deep or whatever. And that's how we got these goals, because Motherwell didn't know what way the attack was going to come from, as you were saying.
I think the first goal we scores came from a left back crossing it to a right back. That just shows you how much pressure we're putting them under. Bassey's getting the ball forward. Cracking cross, I think he picks him out. He'd been putting in a lot of good crosses actually. But to the goal itself, he's picked him out. He sees him at the back post, I'm sure of it. Picks him out, and it's a really good volley. I thought it was really powerful. It was controlled and it was placed. Which isn't easy to do on the volley, I think, or half volley if you like. But it was a really clever finish, I thought.
And I think credit has to go to Gav as well. It would have been so easy for him to drop his head after his party played in conceding the corner, which led to the goal. But that's something that Gav has his critics. He really does. He doesn't have to go looking for them, but he'll never shy away. That's one thing he'll get. He'll show. He'll put the effort in. And I'm sorry, that's what a captain does. A captain in football nowadays isn't somebody who will shout at the midfielders to fucking run faster or start pushing other players to try and get a reaction. Somebody will step up and be counted and lead by example. And he's done that the last two games. A goal and assist the last two games when we needed it. I can't praise him enough.
Right. Then follows it up. After the goal, follows it up with an assist. Great cross again. I think picks him out. I think he sees the gap between the two defenders and picks him out. Bullet header. Absolute. I didn't know that. I didn't know Sakala had it in him to header the ball so hard, but he was up well in between two big centre halves. Got up very well, good leap, and then the power he managed to generate on that was very impressive. Because he didn't put it in, the header didn't go in the corner. It was quite close to the goalie, but it was by him before he could even think about it. Liam Kelly didn't even have a chance of getting into that. It was a really good header.
Obviously, it was inevitable we were going to spend a lot of time talking about passions. Let's just start that for now. He had a fantastic game, and before we continue with the football, probably it's up there with my favourite ever Rangers songs now. It's so fucking catchy. I know you're no down with the pop music, but it's Shakira's Waka Waka turned into the Fashion Sakala song. Phenomenal song. But what surprised me most, and I'm going to put my hands up and say yes, surprised how composed he was and how assured he looked in the ball all game, whether it was his link-up play, whether he was running out of defence or he's finishing. That's what I've seen for Sakala. I've seen somebody who's had pace. There's very few in the Rangers team that would match him for pace. Good out ball that way, but he looked a bit clumsy at times. I don't think that's unfair to say on the ball. But now, after seeing how he turned out on Sunday, I don't know if there's maybe a bit of Nathan Patterson's about him, where previously he's just been trying too hard, a wee bit over-eager. Gerrard had said this was the first week he's really settled, he's showing glimpses. I don't know if this is maybe just him finding his stride, finding his role in the team, being settled into how we set up, because he was a completely different player from what I've seen so far, Graeme.
I'm surprised that you're saying that. I thought you were a big fan of Sakala. I could see it in him. I thought he was a player. But I thought you were the same. I thought you had mentioned before that you fancied him as a player. I know he's not been great, but I thought you'd agreed with me in the last few weeks or the last month anyway that there was a player in there.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm now seeing him as a striker. Like I thought I seen glimpses of what he can do as an outball, and I always seen him playing wide left or wide right, if I'm being completely honest. And I thought he was, maybe going to be a another option for Ken or Scott Wright, but now I thought there was a player in there. I just didn't. I thought this was one of the signings where Rangers have signed somebody in and he'll end up being useful in a different position. But now I really see the value that he would bring as a number 9, as a striker, and it surprised me that it did.
Because he showed all the characteristics in all 3 goals. The header, and then his goal where he teases the boy. He's got fast feet just to find a yard. So he picks the ball up, left of centre, and starts to drive at the defence. He's actually got 2 guys up against him, and he shows one of them the ball and just knocks it to the side of him. A great wee bit of acceleration, and then again another wee bit of acceleration just to find himself a yard, and then he's able to put a fair bit of power in that shot. Slight deflection on it, not much, but there's a slight deflection on it. But I think it was going in anyway. He's shown. He has shown more than what we've seen so far. So I can understand why there's probably a lot of people having a change of opinion on him. But it was always there, and it was always going to take time for it to click. Nobody just comes in and hits the ground running, because he's not been getting lots of game time either. He's only been getting bits and pieces here and there. So it's hard to show yourself up as a player when you're only getting 10 minutes here, when sometimes the game's already won. But he's shown quite a lot of characteristics there that could be a wee diamond in there.
And on top of a fantastic performance on the pitch, afterwards, it was so heartwarming seeing how genuinely happy he was, and just such a nice guy he appeared to be in his interview. The very first thing he said when you never hear, it sounds daft, but you never hear a footballer say this: "Congratulations, fashion." "Oh, thank you." And I'm like, oh, that smile. That's when he caught me right in the feels, man.
Just a polite, well brought up man, yeah. And he's getting praise for the president of the country now. How good would that be? President of Zambia has gone, "Well done, wee man. Good goal. Good hat trick at the weekend."
What a weekend he's had today. Aye. Only the rest of the goals in. Delighted for Glenn Kamara. He had a goal as well. Mainly so I can take at least a couple of days off of shouting "fucking shoot," because as much as Glenn Kamara is fantastic in what he does and is that midfield anchor and driving the ball forward, when he gets to the 18-yard line, he tends to become a different person and just wants to, play the ball across the line, back and forth. Played for him to have a pop and get a goal, and I can only pray that encourages him to do it more.
I don't like seeing these sort of corners though. It's a short corner. You've got all the big guys are in the box, and you play a wee short corner. That frustrates the life out of me. But it worked out well. It's probably a tactic, I suppose, that draw them in, because it left a lot of space for Kamara to drive into and have that shot. So I guess you do need to mix it up once in a while. But a very good strike. But you're right, he does do that, doesn't he? He comes to the edge of the box and sort of gets a bit of a nosebleed and tries to find a pass. He always tries to find a sensible pass. It's not as if he doesn't just shit it and turn back. He always tries to find a thread, a wee slide rule pass in here, or try and cut a player out here and there. But I sometimes just have a go, just have a rifle, and it shows that he can hit it. He can hit it.
That's the only thing missing for Kamara's game, really. A knife for goal.
Exactly.
And he's scored his last. Well, I think he's only scored a handful of Rangers goals, but they've all been like that. They've all been decent digs for outside the box. Well, he had the Benfica goal, and then I think there was one against Rock County or something, but taking a bit of deflection. But it's that, when you're having a strike there, deflections still count, and it's, it's putting the other team on that kind of pressure. So I'm all for it.
Definitely.
And then what I loved about Rangers is they kept on going. Felt a bit bad watching how the last goal unfolded. You ever spent fucking all you're changing a buggy, Graham. You've been at it for ages. Pound coin after pound coin after pound coin. You're drafting away and you're chasing the win because you desperately need it. You sit down, call it quits, and then some bastard comes up, puts £1 in and takes all your winnings. So came out roof done to Jack Simpson. Jack Simpson definitely needed that. I keep on saying he's going to continue to get a hard time because he's not got a lot of credit in the balance. I would have gotten some, but came out roof, the nasty, brilliant striker.
It was a good header, wasn't it? He really did. He got up well for it. A really good, powerful header. And then, do you know what it reminded me of when I seen him? He wasn't happy with Roof. He wasn't happy with him stealing it off him. And it reminded me of when Rangers were playing Celtic and David Cooper skint a couple of guys and he laid it on a plate for Durant. Durant went through and put it past Bonner. Great goal, right? Fantastic goal, but it was Cooper that made it. It was Cooper's goal. You could practically say it was Cooper's goal. So Cooper runs up, celebrating, arms wide, waiting for a hug for Durant. And Durant just ran right by him and away up to the enclosure to celebrate. And Cooper was not chuffed with him. It's like, I don't know if you could lip read it or no, but you could see him was not happy. He's throwing the toys like, yeah, wee bastard. He was raging. And that's what it reminded me of when I seen it at the weekend. Simpson was up so well, scored a goal. You can probably see the ball hitting the back of the net. Then all of a sudden, Roof just comes in and steals it off him. Like a good striker should do, by the way.
Absolutely. And I don't want to criticise him too much because you want your strikers to be desperate for goals. That's what turns them into great strikers. For Simpson, I have felt sorry for him. But I'm really glad Rangers need to start taking advantage of these situations more and more, where we can put the game to bed well and truly and start getting players more minutes. Because Simpson, there's still a long time till January. And I know the jury's still out on him, but we're very touch wood, we don't, but there's every chance we may need him. There's a lot of football to be played in November and December, so the more minutes like to him and any other kind of so-called Finch players get, the better. So the more Rangers can just start putting the foot in the throat, the better.
Definitely. Just one last time on the goal, Colin, for the hat trick was the bravery. I think that needs to come into it as well for Sakala. We're saying he's, showing a lot of attributes here. That's one thing that you need if you're going to be a striker in Scotland is you're going to be brave because you're going to get clattered. And he was right in there. He was sliding in, ready to take a wallop. And actually it was a goalie. It was a Motherwell goalie that shot it because Sakala was so committed. So I think that shows a good thing that we need as well. He's got a wee bit of steel there as well. He's not just a flair player.
Aye, and that's on the face of it, it looks like a bit of a messy goal because it kind of trickles in. I think it's a great finish. So well placed, so hard to get that in the bottom corner. That could go anywhere. He's done well. Terrific ball in for Davis as well. There's no getting away for that. It was good to see Davis just fall back into that dominant midfield anchor again. But no, you're absolutely right. Really, really brave run and terrific finesse finish.
Aye, good performance. Definitely what we needed to see because we needed a lift, didn't we? There've been a few sort of bang average performances and scraping victories here and, salvaging points, and we really needed a right good lift, and that certainly was one of them.
And that kind of leads me on to the next point about how the league's shaping up this season. There's, like I've said before, Hibs and Hearts will be on their day, but they're not going to do a sort of challenge. It's always the Rangers and Celtic. But the way the season's been so far, you're only going to have to be above average to win this league, by the looks of it, if it continues like this. And I think I find the expectation that Rangers will hit the heights of last season have to be thrown out the window. We're not going to play how we did every game last season. There may be games where we absolutely do hit that heights, or some other games where we play an excellent first half or second half, or even 30 minutes here and there. But I think they need to find a half decent level of consistency. We won't have to be amazing to win this league. We're just going to have to be better than Celtic, and it's not going to be the biggest of tasks, I don't think.
Yeah, I think so. Just keep it going. That's us a third of the way through the season now, so 4 points clear. We're a third of the season going. Multiply that up. We should win the league by double figures. That's if we continue at the rate we're going. So, and there's nothing to suggest that won't be the case. Hearts was never going to be sustainable. They were never going to continue that. They're in the position they'll probably end up. They'll finish third or fourth. Dundee United are up there. They're not going to keep that up either. They're getting that a wee bit of a new manager effect, if you like, for that, the boy Courts, but that's not going to be consistent. You can maybe expect Hibs or Aberdeen to be the ones that will climb the table. But yeah, it's a two-horse race again, and I don't see them catching us already. I think we're already opening up a gap, and they'll drop points. They will drop more points than us, I'm sure, yeah.
And I find the important thing is within Rangers' gift to keep the momentum going. We spoke about it at the pod. It's just these blips party matches we need to sort out, and then we've got the talent there to go and beat teams by 2, 3, 4, or even 5 goals as it was on Sunday. So looking ahead, next game is a must-win as far as I'm concerned for away to Brøndby. It's going to be, I think, it's still going to be quite a difficult game. But I'm feeling a lot more confident now than I was last Thursday looking at Brøndby, especially now with the potential attacking options. How do you see Rangers lining up for this game? Do you think it's a game when they come out of the traps, or do you think we should what we say win our battles first and then impose our game plan?
Yeah, their big striker on it, the big tall boy up front, was the only one that really offered anything for them in the last game. Apart from that, I didn't see anything that was worth worrying about. It was just a sort of a run-of-the-mill victory, which you don't usually get in Europe, but we made it so simple. We just played our game. And there's nothing to suggest just because we're going away from home that needs to change. Yeah, my fancy is for a victory. So if we've got any aspirations of finishing second, then absolutely it's a must win. Because we're going to need to take the 3 points, and then we're going to need to do something against Sparta Prague at the return. So yeah, I think we should be okay. Should be okay on Thursday.
So as always, I'll be in the spot and ask you for your lineup.
Is that prediction time, Colin? Is it?
Prediction, aye. Prediction.
I've got a same result as the home leg. We'll say 2-0 to Rangers. Sakala, since he's on form. And we'll also have let's go for a Davis goal. Sakala and Davis, 2-0. Would you fancy?
I say 2-0, but I'll go 3-0. I think for me, this is a game. This is a game Hagi should come in for. I think Hagi, Morelos, and Sakala, your front three. So I'm going all 3 strikers to get a goal each.
Fingers crossed, Fingers crossed. Looking forward to the game. Aye. A bit of a break. It feels like it's been ages since the last European game. I don't know why that is. Has there been what was it? 21st of October was the last game. I don't know. It just seems to be a long time ago. But aye, looking forward to it.
Never know. Graeme Campbell, he might even gives a wee live report. He's actually gone over.
Is he away? Brilliant.
Aye, Gavin Few, the international and all that. That's
Good international roaming reporter.
absolutely. But we getting paid for call if that's what that's. Well, that'll bring us to our close for this week. All that's left to do is all the usual thank yous, starting with you, Graeme. Thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers, Colin. Thank you.
As always, thank you to all the listeners. We were sorry we had a week off last week, but we'll be back next week to talk about how Rangers got on against Rugby and Ross County at the weekend. As always, let us know what you think. Leave a comment on Apple, YouTube, follow Instagram, wherever you get the podcast. Thank you all for listening. Take care.